Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Copilot webinar and workshop. I am delighted to have you join us today. My name is Daniel Bilton, General Manager at Evolve, and I will be your host as we dive into the exciting world of Copilot and its impact on productivity and collaboration. I am thrilled to be joined by Kirsty McGrath today, 7 times winner of the Microsoft MVP, which is Most Valuable Professional, an award given annually by Microsoft for exceptional technology community leaders who actively share their technical expertise and knowledge with others. She's also the founder of Australian Microsoft 365 User Adoption Group, an author, blogger, educator, and content creator. So check her out on YouTube. Together, we'll guide you through the practical insights, answer your questions, and help you get the most out of Copilot. Let's get started. Welcome, Kirsty.
Thank you very much. We'll get ourselves cracking in. We've got so much to go through over the next hour, so put your sneakers on because we're really going to get our way through a whole heap of things just to get ourselves started. A couple of things. If you want to actually chat, please feel free to put that in to the meeting chat, and Danielle and the team are here to be able to answer those questions. There's also Q&A as well if you wish to. Turning on closed captions for accessibility, or maybe English is not your first language, you can go to the More button, go to Language and Speech, and go Show Live Captions. So we are going to be going through a few core things to be able to help and support in the session. I'm going to go a bit about sort of those the why, really the why. Then we're getting into phrasing and the taxonomy. I'm going to do a couple of demos, and then where can you find further information. And the team will also send out further information to you along the way. So whether we like it or not, AI is here. AI has actually been around for a really long time, but generative AI is something that's actually been somewhat new. So in terms of the generative AI, and when we look at something like ChatGPT, it only took 3 months to actually reach 100 million users. So this area is growing exponentially, and we've seen some massive shifts and changes. But the downside is all this digital technology, we've now got this digital literacy issue going on because our adaptability isn't as great in terms of trying to keep up with it. So, we need to get to the point where we can start to bridge it, and it will then bridge this gap between here and here. So what we're actually seeing is in the industry, 32% of organizations are only providing adequate training into Gen AI. However, we are finding that it's increasing customer satisfaction, and decision makers are saying it is saving them time. And I mean significant time savings as well. But a lot of this, when it comes to good AI, it does take having someone alongside you with the specialist skills to be able to drive sustainable adoption. So this is getting a bit from that hype over to a habit, hence why you kind of hear it with me. Now, we're finding there is the tipping point of an 11 by 11 weeks. So 11 minutes by 11 weeks is all the time savings it actually takes for most people to feel that AI is useful. They also found that it was 11 weeks to get that breakthrough moment when they actually say Copilot improves 4 key areas. And those 4 key areas are productivity, work enjoyment, work-life balance, and the ability to attend fewer meetings, hence why this kind of 11 by 11 tipping point. So if you're doing a pilot, for example, and it is with, a few licenses sort of throughout the business and not just hopefully with IT, because process reengineering is not necessarily sitting with IT, then what you want to think about is how long should you do this before you start to go, okay, we're going to get some value out of it. It might take a moment as people start to learn and get used to it before you then start rolling out effectively. But as long as you're doing it well, you can probably do it a little quicker. So what we're actually seeing in terms of some of the statistics around the productivity gains is on average, it's around 1 hour per week. And this is right across an organisation, for example. However, when we get into the more corporate side that might be living and breathing inside office and doing emails and all of the other components, it's about an hour a day. But if you go over and you're in the leader or a support type role, it's 3 to 5 hours a day. That's some significant savings across a business when it comes to your ROI. No, I know for myself, I might not use it, every single day if I'm running a workshop all day or training all day, but on the days that I am using it, which can be, even 4 days a week, a lot of the times, I can actually save myself easily in one day about 30 hours worth of work. And I've actually tracked and recorded some of that. So then what we're seeing is in terms of return on investment for the SMB space, even if it was on its lowest, I mean, down at the low at 132%, that's still a significant saving. Significant. Now, all of these statistics are great. However, where I sit is in the people space, and I'm very much no user should be left behind when it comes to adoption and sustainable adoption. So if I start to see kind of these statistics here, where about revenue and operating cost and on that onboarding of a new hire, for example, I kind of flip it and go, if I've got someone that's actually based on that 11 by 11 tipping point, if I've got workplace enjoyment and productivity and I'm speeding up, for example, I've been onboarded really well, the operating costs, so we've got great revenue coming into the business, for example, all of these things and customer satisfaction make for a great role, which means I'm not churning out employees, because the average statistics over 3 years is around about 50% of your business. So if we're actually providing some of these more modern tools and we're seeing this shift in the industry, we're starting to see a happier employee. So that's from my perspective. Okay. So this is my infographic, and the Wheel of Fortune, everyone likes to call it. You start to see Copilot. Once you've got a license, it's actually embedded into a large variety of endpoints like PowerPoint, Word, Excel, Outlook, and we can start to see everywhere there's kind of all these icons is where we're going to kind of see that technology really embedded in. Now, a lot of the times I'll be working with a business and I'll go, okay, but it's fabulous in Loop. If that's where you were doing something that was more creative, are you doing it in Whiteboard or Loop? Or because I see you're trying to do it in Word, and that might be the right place. But often we get the whole, I don't know what Loop is. So there might be some fundamental, training on some of the technology you need to lift so that you can use and get the most out of your ROI for this particular area. Now, when it comes to the license, you have what we call kind of, and people say it's like the free chat. Well, no, not really, because you have to have a Microsoft 365 license, and then you get your Copilot chat comes into play. So in terms of the Copilot chat, and we're playing around with it here. So what we've now got is it's embedded in your 365 environment, but it's not actually embedded in your applications. So if you just want the kind of the chat web-based version that's got that enterprise data protection, it's within your business, then you might just stick with your 365 license. But if you want to do some of the things I'm about to demo, you will need an actual license to do it. Now let's have a look at the art of the prompt. One of the challenges is we're often caught in this search engine mindset, and that search engine mindset might be putting in 3 or 4 or even 5 words like you would if you were searching on Bing to get a response, or however many, sometimes millions of responses that it might come back around a particular topic. Now, this is a little different in the way that we're actually working. One, we're using a natural language, so we're talking more of in a sentence like a conversation. And not only that, but we can go back and forward in terms of generative AI. So we're trying to shift away from that search engine mindset and change the way that we're actually engaging with our generative AI. So for example, how do you like your coffee? If I actually asked you this question, you typed it into chat for me, it might be if you're going into a cafe, you might go, can I have a latte? And then they would ask you the very next question, is it to have here or to go? And you might go, or they go, what size? Or they go, okay, and do you want milk? And so all this conversation back, forward, back, forward. Or you could have walked up and just said, I want a latte with soy milk and a large cup for takeaway, 1 sugar, and I could give them everything in one big hit. And they're kind of going, okay, hang on, I have to get all that if they've got some good memory. So you could go either way when it comes to generative AI. You can start from the bigger chat, or you can just start having a conversation with it. So you can actually have many conversations going on. Now, each individual conversation, you can have many questions within the conversation. So it's up to you kind of which way you actually go. But the more you get involved and the more you go back and forward with it, then the better your result is going to be. A bit like if you were doing that search engine mindset, most of us didn't even do, for example, Boolean phrases where it was, I want to have, off to Auckland on a holiday, and I went Auckland, and I want disabilities, because I'm taking my, elderly mother, for example. So you go that and that, or capitals, that. We weren't even really doing that. So what this is doing is it's kind of helping us to broaden it or narrow it down. So I want you to treat it a little bit like it's your intern or grad in the office. You wouldn't walk up to them and just say, can you actually do up the memo for an agenda for tomorrow? You would give them a whole heap of context around what it is that you wanted. One, go and look at this document. This is the information. It's on tomorrow and it's at 2:00 and it's with these people and it's actually going to have this type of an output, or it's going to be using this template, or it's okay. So you would give a lot of information fed in to be able to support them to be able to do the work. So Copilot, it's not just, treating it like an intern. It becomes your expert, your tutor, your advisor, your muse, your collaborator, translator, entertainer, companion, and analyzer. So I can do all of these roles and actually be part of your journey. Now, I use it plenty for all sorts of things, I kind of go, often it's my muse, especially with doing, a lot of my online content. And it's like, okay, I'm kind of getting my head around what sort of thing could I talk about? Give me a bit of help. Now, Copilot prompting, Microsoft give you the GCSE, which is your goal, your context, your source, and the expectations. So when I'm moving from a command base, so this is that search engine, if I'm getting out of that and I'm thinking commands and I'm going more to that Gen AI conversational, there are certain parameters that we need to put in place when we're actually asking and doing a prompt with Copilot. What do you actually want? Why do you need it? Where does it need to look to give you the output that you're wanting? And, how do you actually want it when it comes to the expectations? Bullet points and paragraphs, and there's all sorts of things that we can do. And I'm going to dive into that taxonomy for you. So I go down a little further to break it out and make it really simple when we're doing prompting. And I do classes in master prompting, for example, and it's things like, what's your role? A lot of people think of themselves as, I'm in here, I'm an adoption or a user enablement specialist, or I'm a change manager, but I could be a chef. I could be anything that I want to be. Okay. Who's that target audience? And the target audience, I'm going to be talking to the CEO because I'm going into one of the major 4 banks tomorrow and I need to have it pitched at that level. Or I'm dealing with some novice students because I'm the chef talking to 70-year-old, trying to learn how to actually, bake a cake for the very first time. Could be anything, So you can pitch it a lot of different ways. Source documents, task goals. What's the context, the tone, and inclusive modifiers? Let's dive down into all of these. So in terms of the taxonomy, all of these are available and a whole heap more, but these are the basic core ones to get ourselves started. So let's have a look and start from the megaverbs. Let's work our way through all of these. Our megaverbs. Microsoft actually give you a whole heap of verbs for you to be able to start with. They're there in a drop down as part of kind of that task management of what do you want to do when you get in there as a prompt. It will give you lots of different kind of ones as part of little tick box drop downs like edit, or I want to extract or explain or search. All these things kind of come into play as part of, what's the role. It's a bit like having your toolbox. And, I've got quite an extensive toolbox. So if I'm going to pick up a drill in my toolbox compared to if I'm starting with a saw, 2 very different tools to start with. And it really, I suppose, defines what I'm going to do when I'm doing my woodworking, because I do a lot of cake decorating. You wouldn't realize I was, playing around with that, but I have to do a whole heap of structure with so the tool that you pick up is no different here when it comes to AI. We have what our class is our megaverbs, but there are so many verbs in the kit. I love paraphrase. I use paraphrase all the time. Paraphrase this to put it into an email so that I can, From here, our context sources. So we had on the, all that taxonomy, things like context sources. I do see a lot where people will go, can you have a look at all my email, my chat, my meetings, and my documents, or my files, for example. You don't need to. You can actually just go, have a look at all my comms. And it will actually go, okay, I'll look at all your comms, everything in your 365 environment. You could do communications or comms. Either it will recognize it. Or you could go look at all. For example, look at everything. All my email, all my chat. It will look generally at everything anyway, but you could just go email or chat, or you could start to go with your slash. You can start to then go, I want to have a look at this specific file or this specific meeting, this specific person, or you can even go, I also want to have a template. Please use this template. Okay, so there are different responses depending on which way you go when you broaden it or you narrow it down for your sources. Now, more often than not, AI has opened up kind of the world to us, and this is both a brilliant thing, but it also can be, a really frustrating thing because often we don't know the words. But every industry has certain models or theories or concepts that actually come with it. So, for example, because I live in the change space, I will regularly go, does this abide by, for example, kind of that ADCAR model based on ProSci? Have I actually met all of those conditions? Can you give me a hand? Can you do some, extra around this, for example? But there are so many others for your area. So if you're not sure, or maybe you're creating resumes, for example, or you're getting ready for an interview, you might go, give me some example of some, car or star based questions, which are, more behavioral based questions that you could actually ask, for example, and have it go to a particular area. But there are lots of concepts. Document types. So there's lots of document types. I regularly do FAQs. In fact, I even do that plenty of the Ask Me Anything sessions that Microsoft do because they've got transcripts. So I might go, can you help me to create some FAQs off a transcript so that I can then just put these into the SharePoint site for a particular client based on what's going on at the moment. Make my life much easier. Hence why I say normally that might have taken me half day of reading everything and coming up with all the information, typing it all up. I don't have to do that anymore. It's pretty quick. So there are lots of different templates. Not only that, but you could even go, so in Office, for example, if you went File New in PowerPoint or Word or Excel, there are lots of document types. Anything that's sitting in there is effectively what you can ask for. Not only that, but Copilot also recognizes what a resume actually is and the best practice and the good design and methodologies are actually around it. So you can even go, can you compare my resume to best practice around resume, and does it, so you can actually, it understands a lot of that in its back end. In terms of the output formats, you could be asking for example, in your markdown formatting, a lot of people are familiar with doing, make sure it's in bold or italics or bullet points, for example, or maybe you want it in these types of headings, or I want tables, maths, there's images, lots of different things. Word cloud, create me a word cloud off all these words, give me a word cloud. Process, diagrams, charting, quizzes, questions, social media, help me to build out this social media post. And it will actually realize, for example, it's an X post, not really a Twitter post anymore, but an X post, you could actually go, it knows how many characters you actually need to meet those parameters. Can you clean this up because I've got to put it over there, for example. What about when you're working with different media then? So in terms of the graphic styles, for example, I love some of the ways that we can actually work with pictures. And Microsoft Designer, that's actually in the visual creator that's available in there. When it comes to Designer, there are lots of outputs. So I see some real frustration around some of the outputs. So for example, if I ask for claymation, plenty of people go, well, what's that? And I go, it's like Wallace and Gromit, for example, which is like that stop motion in terms of video. There are lots of different ways. You could have said claymation, or you said, I want it like Wallace and Gromit. It would actually understand that reference as well, because it's looking at the bigger picture of, what's out there in the wide world of the web, for example, and big data. So it does get that. So you could actually go and do designing based on that. Now, at the moment, when you go, I want to create a video inside Copilot, what it's doing is it's thinking very much more in the corporate world, where it will design based on, maybe you're asking for inclusion, for example. It uses stock video and helps to put in the words. It's not actually designing, complete from scratch type videos based on the words that you're putting in. Not at this point. Right? Lots of creative effects and styles, and if you ask for it for double exposure, we'll understand they're putting a picture over the top. They're all words that we're not often familiar with because they're whole industries unto themselves. And this is the same for every single kind of area that you might actually do some work in. We all have our specialist knowledge, but all of a sudden it's kind of opened this kind of Pandora's box and we might not know what to ask. When it comes to tones, Microsoft will give you things like casual, formal, informal, neutral, and even a poem, for example, in Outlook. There's lots of different ones. However, there are so many more tones that you could actually use. I use, for example, a lot enthusiastic and inspirational because I tend to live in that space as a Microsoft MVP. So I like it coming out in that kind of a tone. But there are a lot more, and these are just some of them. I had someone say to me recently, it was a friend going, I need to deal with the tax department and there's, a few things going on. I went, why don't you use the word mercy? Oh, I like that one. So, the type of words that you use really makes a difference. And things like an inclusive modifier, and a lot of people don't think about something like this. It really changes and goes into the kind of that humanistic type tones where you go openness and connection and balance. For example, I want it in a genuine type tone because I'm the CEO and I'm creating something for my staff members, for example. I want it to be open and friendly. Okay? I want to talk diversity and inclusion. So there are all sorts of things that really shift the type of tones. Instead of keeping it very broad, generic, and you're just saying professional tone, you can go professional, but you can go professional and have that kind of little bit more human touch to it. The roles and personas, you could be, and most of these are actually based on kind of corporate type roles, an interviewer, recruiter, project manager, board manager, you name it in terms of the roles. However, you could go over into the personal world as well. Maybe you're in sports, for example, or as I said earlier, a little earlier, chef. You're being the chef. Whatever it is that you want to do, an experience and age. You go pitch this like I'm talking to, kindergartner, and they are only, 4 years old, for example. Or the enthusiast or novice, expert, graduate, mature. How many years? I'm in this industry. I've been doing it for 34 years, for example. You could say those sorts of things if you wish to. And it gives it a bit of context to help remove sometimes the bias that might actually be there. Going into times and time ranges. You got very specific time ranges. You could say quarters and financials. You could even just go very general over the last month or over the last year. So you don't have to define right down between these days. You can go either a lot broader or very specific. For the last 2 hours since I haven't been, can you catch me up across all my communications? For the last 2 hours, I know I've been inundated. Give me a bit of an idea what's actually happened. In terms of languages, there is over 100 default languages. There are 26 kind of core. So, for example, you might have, English, but then it does understand that difference between sort of US English, the UK English. Now, Australian English, more often than not, I go UK English rather than the Australian English. It will kind of, convert it over, but I have in the past had it go very ochre and go throw a shrimp on the barbie. Yes, a shrimp, not even a prawn. It's like throw a shrimp on the barbie. So sometimes we do have to be a little careful, have a little bit of a look, but more often than not, I will regularly translate. For example, in PowerPoint, can you please convert this over into Vietnamese? Because I recently did a presentation to Vietnam and it did a whole new presentation and converted it all over for me. And then I might just give it to someone that's actually over there, just go double check it and make sure it seems like it's all good. And then roll it out. There's lots of computer languages and scripting that you could actually do. And Python, for example, is built into Excel to help and support you to do more complex work in Excel. So wherever you happen to go, you could be in this space. We've got to didact and redact. of personal information. Now, becomes quite important, especially if you're trying to put something out there into the wider world of AI. We've got to be really careful. Is it actually built into the metadata of a document of who actually created the file, for example, if you're going to be putting it up on the internet for your particular business? What sensitive or personal information is out there? You can actually get it to just double check first before you go put it up on your internet site. Demonstration data. I do this all the time. With being a trainer and building out modules, for example, like, okay, can you give me some demonstration data for the HR department of this large vet organization? It's Excel. It's going to have, 10 columns, and I want 500 lines to deal with of moving people around the country, for example. It's one I did recently. And I just went, sure, I can do that. Now, this is great because this is also doing things like building out that template. It's effectively what it's doing. Give me a template of information that you could then start working with and adjusting if you need to. So there's so many things that you could build with that demonstration sample type data. More often than not, I'll be asking it for feedback. So I'll request some feedback on, is this actually relevant, for example, and help me out a little. I will regularly ask for more examples, and then that way it will actually support me when it comes to certain content. So I, recently had someone saying, in Power BI, I'm a little confused. So I went, okay, let me put in a bit of a prompt. Can you give me examples? And can you give me some step-by-step, for example? Use existing materials as templates is good. Ask those step-by-step questions. It can be in a step-by-step, exactly. I want to see, and I've created some guides recently. They wanted me to do 3 guides in one day. Now, ordinarily, it would take me, a good minimum, 1 day to do a 2-page guide. Easily one day to do a 2-page guide. But I managed to get all 3 done in one day with getting it to help me, give me kind of step-by-step, small, succinct bullet points on how to do this from Microsoft Learn. And I went, sure, I can do that. And then all I had to do was get screenshots and just clean it up a little bit rather than trying to type it all out from scratch. I often will ask it questions one at a time. So I go, can you please ask me questions one at a time in regards to this particular topic because I'm not quite sure which way I want to go at this point. I go, sure, I can do that. So if I'm doing some prompting, and there's no real bad prompt as such, it's just a very generic prompt. So, for example, with using that kind of GCSE, the goal, context, source, and expectation, if I was just doing a really basic, simple command or search-based prompt, up here, for example, it would just be, if it was very simple, list of questions for an interview. That's what you might actually even put in there. In fact, it might go a little further where in just a command or a search-based prompt, you go, questions for an interview. That's the sort of thing that we've been typing as a behavior for a really, really, really long time. So when I go into Gen AI and I'm doing it in a natural language, that's when we're putting things in like, can you give me a list of questions? So this is getting into the natural language. So a natural language is like that conversation, order that cup of tea or a coffee or whatever it is you get from the cafe. But if I want to get out of that command search-based type prompt where it's really sitting in very simple, generic getting started, that would give me a very generic response. A good one might be, I'm preparing for an upcoming candidate interview for a senior associate, role at a corporate comm team, but I want to create a list of questions, for example. Instead, if I want to go a little better, so I've got the not so great, the really basic to the good, the better is, who are you? The HR manager, same kind of thing when it comes to what is the role and where are you going. But now it's got, prepare a list of appropriate questions for the candidate. So it's not just a list of appropriate questions for me, it's actually for the candidate now. So I've got the different roles, and I also want to make it so that I look prepared for an interview. So it's going to give you suggestions around how you can also be prepared, and here's the questions, and these are the various contexts. So this is all goal and context, but it's extending on the goal and context. Now, when I get into best, So best practice starts to bring in the source and the expectations. I've got an interview coming up. I've got their resume. I've got the job description. So now also what I do is please review that resume, and here is the position detail, and I want a list of comprehensive questions. Now what it's going to do is it's going to look at the gap between the two based on what's in the resume and what's in the job description, and start to give some suggestions of good questions that are very specific for each candidate, for example, so that you can actually determine then and saying, I want to look at the candidate fit. This is just one example, taking a little bit further. Now, what might you do to go to advanced? So if I went, good, better, best, but what would an excellent one look like? An excellent one goes a little bit further, where you might start doing things like those models or concepts based on, I want to do a very specific type of questions based on best practice, for example, behavioral based or competency based type. Be really focused in terms of the models. And there are so many other things that you could bring in when it comes to going to excellent. So I can start from really simple and go, that didn't quite get me what I wanted, and add in a few things and have the conversation back and forward. Or I could build a really good, great prompt because I use it all the time potentially, and I keep it there to use on a daily or a weekly basis. Or when I'm dealing with, I've got 60 interviews coming up, I want to have a really good prompt that I can just do this again and again rather than constantly going back and forward with questions. So more often than not, I'll just say things like also go in and, be a little curious around what you're actually doing it. So asking for feedback and having a little bit of a play with this then become really important. So what, Copilot, when I'm dealing with the different kinds, you've got lots of locations that you can actually go into Copilot. I'm going to be focused today on doing it in the app. So this one here is where we're going to be focused. But there is kind of that free version and going through the edge. You've got it built into Windows. You've got it on your mobile phone. Now, if I've actually got it and I have a license and I've got that paid license, I can tell because what I got here is work or web when it comes to the chat component. I will not see work or web to be able to choose between them, and I will not see it over in my applications if I haven't actually purchased a license specifically for Copilot in my environment. So which one I choose will actually give me a different result as well. Because if I'm dealing with the web-based, it's focused on external. It's not focused on internal. If it's internal, it's physically looking at your documents. It's looking at your information. It's under your enterprise data protection. Both of them are under enterprise data protection. It has a little green tick here to say this is secure, whether you're going web or you're going work. But work allows me to be very specific around my information that I've actually got access to. So it's up to me, and everyone is different. So everyone will get a different result because we all have access to different information. Now, it does give you suggestions, which I particularly love, around some of the prompts. So in those prompts here, I can do quick and easy prompts. In fact, there is a whole heap more. So I can go see more prompts and it will bring up a prompt gallery. And in that prompt gallery, if I can't kind of see based on kind of those mega verbs, those task and thing up here, so you've got that drop down of the tick boxes of things to actually do. If I can't kind of see inside that application, if it's Word or PowerPoint, things that I want, I can go see all prompts. It will take you online to the full prompt gallery so that you can start to filter it and then start to look at them all. As you hover over any one of these tasks that are in the list, you could even go, I want to share it with another, or maybe you want to save it. So there's a little bookmark there, right here. And you might want to save it so that you can put it into your prompts, and you can also then save them into your team prompts as part of your sharing. So these are the things that, become then of value because I can come back to this again and again. And these are all tried, true, and tested prompt. So, for example, even recently, I think I was looking in Microsoft Word, and it's like over 360 prompts that are actually in the prompt gallery for you to be able to choose from. There are so many, and they're constantly evolving as well. So let's go have a little bit of a play around inside our environment. So say, for example, I'm looking for chat. I've got chat both through my m365.cloud.microsoft to get me started. Here's my work or web. However, I can also come in and do the same thing here inside my Outlook. So here is Copilot, and it will then bring up chat. I can also bring it up, give it a chance for it to come up. I can also bring it up over in my Teams environment as well. So I've got 3 places that I can go to start working with chat. Now, it doesn't really matter where you go. Either place will help or support you. So say I'm doing web and I'm wanting to create some information and I want to do it based on the web. So let's come back. I'm going to go back and use this version to get started with. So I'm just on my web. Now over on the web, I've got different agents that I can play with. I've got previous conversations and then pages if I've saved it. So if I want to do a prompt, this is one that I just did recently. And it was, I'm a training manager of a meeting size sort of business. I want a course outline across 1 day of training for a webinar, and it's going to be on all these different topics for Copilot. I want each module to have it, kind of 5 features for the demo. I need a list of prerequisites to actually be successful in this course, plus the target audience for the course. And it's actually for information workers. So what I want to do is actually build out a course outline of something that I want to do. So I'm going to go, great, let's do it. I'm just going to the web and it's going and having a look. I could also have said, have a look based on, Microsoft Learn, for example, and find more information. So go, sure, here is the course synopsis, learning outcomes, key modules for the web, for chat, for Teams, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, all the way down, all the different topics that I've asked for, plus here's my prerequisite and here is my target audience. It then goes, would you like this in a PDF or Word for distribution? Do I want to extend on that? Can you add more features into each model? Can you simplify down the agents, for example? Can you change? And I could adjust this around and go back and forward. So I can go, can you add more features? And you'll see here there are other prompts, but I could just type in a little bit more. Or maybe I want to play around and edit this with someone else. If I do say a Word document for distribution, then it's going to create something for you to download and it will pull it down to your OneDrive. I could go, I want to edit this in Pages, or just copy it and put it somewhere else into chat. But if I go, I want to edit in Pages, it's actually putting it into Microsoft Loop. So here's the original prompt. Here's now all of my course information of what I want to do, built. And I can go, I also want to put in here, for example, I'm going to play around with content. So you go, I'm going to, for example, get rid of those 2, and I could extend out. I could maybe go, I want to, focus instead and change it around to, the prompt. There's, the finance one, there's the researcher, there's the researcher, and there's an analyst. I could play around with all of these. You can see I've got my information here, play around up the top, share it with someone else, and we can collaborate together in real time. Or I go, open this now up in Word. I go, sure, I can do that. Getting a draft ready. Open in Word. So here it is. And I've got it all kind of ready to go. And I could play around and or put it into template. If I had 1 or 2, I could copy and paste it into templates. I could do all sorts of things off the back of this to get myself started. So I had some information ready to go, and I could share this instead and work with and collaborate with someone on it. So that's getting in and kind of doing the web-based version. to be able to play around. But what about if it's actually a work focused? List some key points, summarize my week, the latest from a particular person. So on the chat side of things, for example, can you show me, what my availability is like, or summarize my information, or here we go, I'm a new employee, for example, and can you give me a bit of an idea of who's within the team? So this is, I've just started within this business, help me out. Okay. Or what if I'm about to do, some updates? So it goes, here it is. Who have we got? Director. What I'm doing. Focus. So it gives me a bit of an idea. So I could ask information about a senior leadership team. It's also giving me reference points. So for example, if I wanted to copy this a little later, I might go through and say, can you please remove all the reference points so that when I copy it, it's not including all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s, but it will actually tell me information and where it's drawing from. So, what it is that I'm doing and getting ready. Okay. How can I connect? Are there any other resources? What about I've got my interview coming up, need to do my KPIs, it's my performance review, and I want to break down my strengths and weaknesses. Here's the different columns, so I'm doing it with my my kind of that line between each of them, and I want to know, what does that look like? What can I focus on? Now it's looking at all of my information, or write an email to someone. Can you check my inbox over the last 3 days? What have I actually missed, for example? So I'd start to then create. Now, this is then embedded in my information. This is looking at the last year of information to go, sure, how has she gone? I could also go and have a look at my previous year's performance review. That would then give it something to compare against, for example. So it will then work its way through, and it might take a moment. So it says, clearly I've done, plenty, leadership style, punctuated humor and humility. Your communication is warm, direct, and supportive. Well, that's always nice to know. It's interesting. It's the way that, that tone of voice, often punctuated with humor and humility. Radio, okay. I like it. I'll take it. So, it goes, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the things that you then want to focus on? Your OKRs. I think I'm blushing. Okay, so then they thank you, Copilot. I like it. These are sorts of things that you could be building out and playing around with, and it's done so fast. So fast. So that's kind of getting in and embedding it inside my work. I will regularly do can you do me a table of my availability over the next 5 business days? Because I have so many people say to me, what do you like over the next month to do a full day of training or a half day of training? I will actually ask it. It agrees me a little table. I copy and paste it into my email for them. So what happens then if I'm over in my email? So for example, I've got my summary by Copilot. Now, if I go, just give me a bit of a summary, it will tell me a little bit about, my Evolve Tech, session that we've got going on. Okay, ask a bit more. I could dive down a little further. I could have come up to the top and gone, chat, reply, summarize meetings. Now, chat is a little different because chat is embedding over on the right-hand side. So I might want to do things like create a rule that whenever I get an email from Stacey White, for example, to make it bold and red for some conditional formatting. Or can you actually, move all of these into a particular folder? Or give me some key points, or help me write an email in regards to this. Schedule some time to meet with my bookkeeper somewhere over the next 3 days. I can do it through chat and get command base there. Or I could come in, even if I just go reply. So I go, I want to reply to this particular email. I'll have Copilot chat here. So I can go, thanks for the slides comment. Very good. I can just go, yeah, okay. Keep it really simple. I don't even need to put anything particularly complex. It's looking at what's actually below. Thanks for sending over. I look forward to it. I'll be joining the call 15 minutes beforehand. It's also, look, now that is actually, if I go down a little bit further, you'll see here, it's kind of reiterating what's down there. And I go, I like it, keep it. Or I could go retry, shorter, longer, change the tone, for example. Customize. See, here's the different tones, like a poem, casual, formal, direct. Or you could go adjust it yourself with a particular tone. Those inclusive modifiers. Okay, so now once it's done, I then just go edit it, play around with. Maybe I'll get rid of, a few things like this because I've already got a signature, and I'll then just go send. Let me go delete. Get rid of that. Otherwise, you'll get heaps of emails. Another thing I do regularly is go schedule with Copilot. Now what's happening is it has in here, it will go based on today. You'll see here, it's looking at free space in my calendar. And then it's including the email, giving me a bit of an agenda and summarizing what we've talked about. And I go, yep, I now don't have to worry about creating all agendas and things. It's looking at a whole email trail and doing it for me. So I could then work with the drafting and clean it up a little bit, add in some more if I wanted to dive down a little bit further. So many things that you could play around with when it comes to Outlook. Let's go over into Word. So say, for example, I've got that Word document open, well, that training outline, for example. So here it is. I could extend on it a little bit further and start to play around with it. But I'm going to play instead with, let's go over to another document. So here we go. I do love it in terms of building out things like an executive summary. There's so many things that you can actually do with Word. As I said, FAQs, for example, I just load in, videos and create FAQs. But you can see I've got my kind of inline way to be able to work with content here. Or I could open out, and this is with the license, the pane running over the right-hand side. So I've got my window and I could do it over here as well. There is to the right, do you want to include web content? Covered under enterprise data protection. Do you want to do microphones so you can have that physical conversation? A great one if you've actually got teenagers that want to get prepared for an interview, or even yourself getting prepared for an interview where it has conversations back and forward and ask questions like you're having a chat with someone. Okay? A really good one to get you prepared. But under the plus is where we go, I want to attach, go based on this document, for example, or this template. Go dive down into the prompting gallery. Or maybe you want to add in an image and go create an image based off an image, for example, or add in an image to adjust and do, for example, these are all the words. Can you create me the cloud, the word cloud, for example? And there are different agents as well. If I'm doing it over here, it's going to physically embed it in compared to putting it here and then embedding it in. So if I go, for example, and I'm doing it over in Word, I go, I want to create an executive summary and paste it in to go, I want an executive summary for the document, put it in a short introductory paragraph. It's formal, respectful, but it needs to be welcoming and positive. Invite the participants to read the report. And it goes, we're excited to share with you, here it is in terms of the relocation. It's like, I like it. I could edit it and go a little bit further down. So I can go, hang on, let's fix that. You can go cancel, come back, delete it, refresh, try again. Don't like that. Regenerate. Okay. Or just go keep it. So I've got exec summary. I could then do a closing paragraph, or I could write the whole document. So I can play around with this plenty. Or maybe I've got some points here that seem a bit like a bullet point. And I can go, I want to visualize this as a table instead of kind of these paragraphs. I can go auto rewrite, write suggestions, go get some more information, extend on it, for example. Lots that I could do or play around with. Here we go. Do I want to keep it so it keeps both? Replace so it gets rid of the previous? Or rewrite? I'm going to go replace. So now what I've got is a table with that information in instead. So from here and playing around with all of this, so for example, I'm often responding to tenders, and I'm also doing an awful lot when it comes to, these type of speaking engagements, and they go, can you give me a bio, a 250 word bio? So I will, regularly do things like, I want to describe what I want to do. So here we go. It could be based on, particular files. I've got my previous history up the top here. Or I could go, I want to do it based on my Kirsty. I think it might start with bio. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Or I could go find it. Here we go. Let's just use this one here. And I want to go, for example, create me. I'm going to copy and paste. So it will find it. Create me an impactful 200 word bio. Okay. And I asked for it in 200 words. And I go, keep it. I might come back and then go, how many words is this? Just ask, because when I said 200, what did it actually create? So I'll go, sure, let me just have a look. It contains a total of 200 words. Very good. I could even go, because you know me so well, is there anything else that I should potentially include? Give me some suggestions. I could go have a look at all my information in previous sessions, include some of the things that I've actually done and dive down or reduce it down. And I do this even with tenders. I'll often have written it and it will be, over 1,000 words and it says no more than 800 words. And I go, instead of trying to delete out and do you know how much time I have spent in the past trying to reword things to bring the words down? Yeah, don't do that. Just use Copilot to do it for you, for example. And there's so many different scenarios that you could play around with. Now let's come over into, PowerPoint. So let's go here. I'm going to create a new document. And in here, I go, I want to create a presentation. So I can either do it sort of that, inline in the document or open out over on the right. I particularly like doing it through here. So create a new presentation with a particular file. So this will go based on some previous files. Here's this training course outline. Sounds good. I want to use that. I'm not even going to say what it is I want to do. I can change the design and go, what design? Here's the standard template. You can have your own branding templates, or you can even use the Microsoft templates. And you go, I like that template. Just select it. Random. Sounds good. And go. So I had that, outline that I created in chat, which I could play around in Word and edit if I wanted to, get it ready. It looks at all of my headings and my styles and starts to go, this is the design. So give me a bit of an idea. Do I want to change it? Do I want to add in anything in particular? Course overview, introduction. At the end, I want to do topic about a, conclusion and next steps, for example. So just drop that in at the end. Get myself ready. Recap, applying, sounds good, generate. So Copilot likes to do bigger picture and build. There we go, as it builds out. Now there was a lot of content that was actually in there in terms of outline. I go, I can do that. It will drop in pictures based on the Microsoft standard, Microsoft stock. So it's got the library of its stock. So we'll just drop all that in for you. And once it's created, you go ready to drop in. Here it is. My presentation. Now, if you didn't like a particular page, so say you wanted to change this page, go into your design solutions and Microsoft Designer, and with its AI, we'll start to go, is there another look and feel that you might actually want from in here, for example. I could choose this one, for example, but the writing now is gone. So I really do want that in there. It's not going to help me too much, but you could just play around with those different benefits. So each one of these We'll have a bit of a design. You could ask it to create a certain picture if you like. Okay, you can see all of them here. And it will depend on the template that you're actually using as to the type of the design that you might want in here. Now, say, for example, here I want to go a little bit further. I could then say, maybe I'll go, create a separate page for each one of these topics on this page, for example. So I want more pages. I want to divide it out. Sometimes we've got too many bullet points on a page, so you might extend it out, or I want a topic for each page. Of course, now it doesn't want to do it for this page, and I just did it not long ago. Sorry, no, I don't. I want to, let me change my prompt again. Create a separate page for each of these 2 topics on page, let's just go page 8. And of course, today it doesn't want to do it for me. Maybe it's this particular template I've chosen. It doesn't like it. Fine. Okay. But I will regularly do this. In fact, I only did it like 50 minutes ago. So it definitely does do it. What I also will do is, can you please add some speaker notes from Microsoft Learn? Because it's actually will have speaker notes included. So depending on the file, so you can see here, it's got, different references and information. So I can then start to extend on it. You go, sure, I can do that.
It'll be interesting, Kirsty, if it notices the typo in Microsoft.
Yes, it does generally. There we go. Generated content, some extra speaker notes, and the content source and information where it's got it from. So from there, I've got my document, I've got my presentation. If I'm going over into the likes of Excel, I might be playing around with my content in here. And in Copilot, it's gone just a little slow today, conscious of time. All right, so in here, it could be, create, suggest a color for formula. Now, this is some simple data, but I could have quite complex data. It's going to look at the fact that we got October, November, and December. And now this file, by the way, has to be saved to the cloud first before you can actually get started when it comes to Excel. It wants you to have it saved online. So guys, insert, yep, thank you very much, done. Can you suggest some conditional formatting? And I like where highlighting of rows, it's often hard to know the formula when it comes to some conditional formatting for a row. A cell for conditional formatting is a little easier than doing rows. So if I go, can you highlight the row? It'll go, sure. Now I could have typed it in because maybe I didn't want it to be less than 2.21 million. I could have said very specifically what I wanted instead of just choosing it. It's created it for me. And I go, yep, I like that. Can you please apply that? Done. You'll see it'll bring it through. What about, go bold the first column, formatting. Okay, sure, I could do that. Okay, let's go bold the column, and then I'm going to extend out. I'm going to do a new conversation. And it could even be do some advanced analysis on this, for example, or, show me some insights. So it will go through, give me a table. Here are some insights. Great. Can I just go see what all the insights look like and go add it to a grid? So sure. So it will give me, and it'll go based on the data that I've got, a bit of best practice, and say, this is all of the potential insights based on, and it'll give you a pivot table. You could ask it to create a pivot table, ask it to create a chart. Okay? I could do really simple or can do quite complex sort of Python depending on, I mean, it's very simple data, so I probably wouldn't be going too far. But if I have really complex data, then I might go into using Python, for example. So this is the sort of things, and I mean, I do it all the time where I divide out columns based on certain delimiters, where I've got a comma and I've got a colon and I've got a dash, and I go, can you create me three columns based on these kind of delimiters? And it goes, sure, and I can extend it out and it will just build it and do it for me. Creating things like time. Okay, what is seconds? Can you convert that over and put a column in for minutes and put in a column in for days based on how many seconds that was running for in these different videos? And I go, sure, I could do that. I'm regularly creating and dividing out data that I'm often copying and pasting and putting into other places. That's what I like to do. If I'm over in Microsoft Teams, nearly done. So over in Teams and having a bit of a play here, whether I'm using chat. So in my chat environment, I can be typing something in and I can go, okay, click on my little pen and go rewrite it. So it does a bit of a rewrite and I can replace it. Here's those, make it concise, longer. What are those tones? Casual, professional, confident, enthusiastic, for example. Remember I said there's lots of different tones all over the place. So this is in chat. It could also be in my channels, same thing. Okay, in my channels I've written it and then I'm clicking on the pen. Or maybe I've done a particular meeting and as part of my meeting, I could come back in and with Copilot do a bit of a recap of the last meeting and any action items. And I'll go, sure. Now I could do this within a meeting as well. So if I was in a meeting and I was running a little late, I could say, could you please give me a bit of a recap of what's happened so far, for example. Here it is. Recap from the meeting. Or maybe I will do can you paraphrase this meeting so I can send it over in an email? And I just then copy and paste it. An email to who? And I'll say exactly who it is. Action items. Done. So I could then come back up to the top and you'll see here summarize, or maybe give me a bit of a, what was the sentiment? How did they feel at the end of that? And it will help me out. So it gives you a little bit of an idea, but, remember as part of this environment, it's really important that we be curious and have a bit of a play because things will change all of the time. And as quick as you can't do it, you can do it. So also iterate, test, fine tune it, because I always go back and just double check and it might not have come out right. Maybe I need to fix my prompt. It is autopilot. It is not autopilot, it is Copilot. It's there to work alongside you. You need to be in the driver's seat. You need to actually read, double check the references and where it's actually drawn from. But mostly go and have a bit of fun because there's certainly plenty that you can do in this environment. We're providing in the presentation sort of lots of further information for you. We're going to be providing things like the guides, Microsoft's GCSE guideline in terms of the art and science. There's lots of information around FAQs available online. This is just for PowerPoint, but there are so many more. So you can see down the bottom here, Outlook, Excel, OneNote, there's plenty more there to be able to play with. Microsoft have a scenario library of all of the different ways that you could use it across your particular industry and role. There's lots of learn from basic to advanced that Microsoft provides. So please feel free, have a look at the latest features in the Community Hub and in terms of the tech community. But really, ultimately, the power of this lies with you. It's up to you to go on this learning journey. My information is available for you. It's in the presentation as well as my reel if you want a copy. And I'm also available if you're booking before the end end of the financial year, you can get 15% off if you want to run further workshopping, promptathons, or training through Evolve. Just reach out. And I will hand back over to Daniel. I've gone just a little bit over with the slowing of my environment today.
Thank you very much. That was very informative. I don't know about everybody else, but even I learned something, so that is good. Yes, as Kirsty mentioned, we will be providing some post-event links and everything. This recording or this seminar will be recorded and posted to Evolve's YouTube channel, so we'll supply a link to that. Kirsty will also post it to hers. So thank you. For those that are wondering, well, how much is it? The recommended retail for Copilot in Australian dollars is $47.15 per month on an annual commit. It's not available on a monthly commit from Microsoft as yet, so it's only on annual commits. So that at least will probably answer some of your questions. If you wish to grab a subscription for yourself or your team, please reach out to us. Just send us an email to helpdesk@evolvetech.com.au. That will get escalated through to your team leader, who can then purchase the licenses for you and assign them to the staff that you require. So I think that is about all. We've gone over a few minutes over time. Thank you very much, everybody. And we look forward to co-piloting with you all in the future.
Thank you, everyone.